All right, good morning, everybody. How are we all doing today? It is Larsen Live. It is 12:07 p.m. We're kicking things off right. All right, so we opened up with Alfred Newman's Suite to the Prisoner of Zenda from 1937, one of my all-time favorite films. Not to be confused with Randy Newman, his nephew. He is, a very good composer, one of the finest composers this country has ever produced. And what does that have to do with manatees? The stream is titled Oh, the Hugh Manatee. I'll tell you what it has to do. Absolutely nothing. And the first story we're going to talk about is not the manatee story. It is about the reuse of trebuchets in modern warfare. What does that have to do with the Prisoner of Zenda? Very little. It's a medieval siege weapon, and I was thinking I would do some Eric Korngold, like medieval, epic saga or epic song, like maybe The Adventures of Robin Hood. Then I realized that the Prisoner of Zenda suite is way better musically, even though that movie clearly takes place in the late 1800s, in a time when history still wore a rose and politics had not yet outgrown the waltz. Maybe I just like ruffly shirts, I don't know. Anyway, yes, trebuchets are back on the Lebanese border. There is documented evidence of soldiers from one side or the other. I don't really know who's who, because I'll be damned if I know anybody's uniforms. They are using trebuchets, counterweighted heavy catapults, to throw incendiary bombs over the wall on the border. I must say, I do like seeing physics in action. I don't know how accurate this is. It doesn't seem like you can really. I mean, I guess you can sight it in the same way you can sight like an artillery piece. But can you really do it over a wall? I don't know. I wasn't particularly good at physics. Fran LPK says trebuchets are expensive. They cost 200 wood and 200 gold. Yeah, mangonels are cheaper, but they are very effective from long range. It's been a very long time since I played Age of Empires 2, but I do remember a few things. Anyway, in desperate times, things call for desperate measures. You got to break out the trebuchet. Someone asks, an M1 Abrams costs 6.2 million US dollars. A trebuchet costs 11,000 US dollars when you adjust for wood and counterweights and such. Is one Abrams tank better than 541 trebuchets? No, it is not. In desperate times when people are running low on ammunition, they'll do some crazy shit. 19th century cannons have been documented being used in the Syrian civil war going on right now. Someone in the thread says, trebuchet is the most based siege weapon. It is the third greatest French invention, first being the guillotine, and the second being smoking cigarettes after sexual intercourse. Maybe things would be better in the world if we used trebuchets and medieval siege weaponry more. It's kind of like how China and India on the Himalayan border, they've agreed not to use guns in the fear of triggering a proper war. They just hit each other with sticks. It's like Private Cat said in All Quiet on the Western Front. The generals should just be put in a circle and hit each other with sticks, and that's the war. Anyway, let's check out some comments here. Ponythroat says, I'm also something of an AoE2 aficionado. Ponythroat says, where the mangonels upgrade into onagers, despite a mangonel being more advanced and effective in every way. A Lou says, are bump stocks better? Thank you, Supreme Court. I mean, the stock is not going to make a gun particularly more deadly or not. But I mean, I'm pretty sure legally you could own a trebuchet much better than you could own a rifle or some fancy fishamajig. Ponythroat says, trebuchets are not French. Well, the name trebuchet is French. It's debated whether it was Chinese or Turkish. Gee, if only I knew more about medieval siege weaponry. I'm going to look that up right now. Okay, the traction trebuchet, or the mangonel, uses, manpower to kind of crank the thing and set it up. That was definitely Chinese. The counterweight trebuchet first appeared in, Christian or Muslim lands around the Mediterranean. It's probably during the Crusades it kind of arose. The mangonel, the traction trebuchet, was not quite as good as the counterweight trebuchet, but you could set it up much faster. So, it has its drawbacks. Fran LPK says, I want a Warhammer now. I mean, I'm pretty sure you can make your own Warhammer. I mean, your basic medieval Warhammer wasn't too different from a regular old carpenter's hammer. It's just bigger. And really, the size was mainly on the handle. Yeah, just take a regular hammer, straighten out the nail pulling bit, the claw, into one spike, maybe do a little bit of welding, extend the handle, and there you go, you got a Warhammer. Ponythroat says, bump stocks are more deadly, provided your target is a country music festival. Yes. Funny how that keeps happening. I see. Bump stocks are basically a cheap way to sort of gimmick a gun to fire automatically. Ponythroat, referring to the trebuchet, says, writing by a Chinese general describes what might be a trebuchet, or it could be something else. Well, no, there's definitely mangonels. Like, those are confirmed to have come from China as early as the 300 BCs. The counterweight trebuchet was invented around the Mediterranean, which is bigger but slower. China employed large numbers of Turkish siege engineers. Yes, the Tang dynasty subdued the Western Gok Turks. And then, of course, there was the An Lushan rebellion. That's a whole different issue. So, yeah, trebuchets. Speaking of the Muslim world, let's move on for a bit. Let's see what's going on. We're going to leave Lebanon, and we're going to go to Pakistan. From the Publica, human rights activists sent to psychiatric hospital after trying to open Pakistan's first gay club. Yeah, that's about what I expected. I'm honestly surprised he didn't get sent to the regular hospital after being severely beaten. But yeah, I am actually pretty surprised this guy wasn't just thrown off the roof of a building somewhere. But yeah, you got to know your audience, people. You got to realize that's not going to go over well. It doesn't go over well in a lot of places, but the State Department keeps forcing it in anyway. Yes, forcing it in. I did say that as a double entendre. In case you're wondering, yes, the State Department does literally fund drag shows in Ecuador and other countries. Of course, there's nothing wrong with dancing about in women's clothing, should you desire it. But why are my tax dollars going towards this? I don't know. They may not be tolerant of the LGBT community, but they do know how to set up siege weaponry, which means they're good engineers. See what else we got going on here. But if it says Punjabi behavior, I mean, if you want to be technical, I feel like India is somewhat more tolerant of the LGBT community. Somewhat. Fair enough, the case is that the U.S. also have gay people rooting for Arab countries. Yes, we do. There are queers for Palestine, and nobody seems to understand the irony. I mean, they'll tell you with a straight face that America is more dangerous to gay people than the Muslim world. I don't think so. I mean, America's far from perfect, but when the White House is literally putting the gay pride flag on the flagpole, you're probably not facing that much danger in America. And of course, it's not even the rainbow flag that looks good. It's the multi-fractal fuck spiral flag, which looks like hot garbage. Because of course it is. Yeah, that's not good. Okay. Let's leave Pakistan behind. And we'll go to America. Because things aren't that much better here. Well, they are better in terms of LGBT rights, but bad just in the general state of things. Breaking news. The United States Senate Committee on the Armed Forces intends to require women to register for selective service as part of the National Defense Authorization Act for the fiscal year 25. And I quote, okay, Item 3, strengthening the Joint Force and Defense workforce. Authorize funding to support a 4.5% pay raise for military members and a 2% pay raise for DoD civilian employees. Increase monthly basic pay for junior enlisted men in the grades of E1 through E3. Amend the Military Service Act to require the registration of ladies for selective service. Include a number of provisions to improve DoD efforts related to traumatic brain something or other, kind of trailed off there. Yeah, I've alluded to this many times, but the recruitment status of the military is going down the toilet. Maybe because people realize we haven't fought a war that's remotely justifiable since Desert Storm, and let's be quite honest, you could really go back and say the Korean War. I mean, Desert Storm's kind of, I guess. But, yeah, people are slowly waking up to how they're getting dicked around by the military, and the Uniparty doesn't like that. You know, who's going to force gay pride parades down the throats of third world countries now? So, since men aren't signing up, we gotta get the ladies involved as well. I can't say that this is gonna go over well, nor can I see that it's gonna go over well. I feel like women might be a bit mad at this. I mean, they have better things to do, like working bullshit email jobs. Obviously, not all women do that, but the ones who trend on TikTok do. Biff Slankovich, with a T, says he's here. That's good, sir. Ponyfoot says, I didn't know you needed to draft recreational material. Oi, I'm not going to touch that one. But yeah, it wasn't bad enough that you're drafting your sons to fight in bullshit wars. You're drafting your daughters, too. Yeah, I can't say I approve of this. Not that I have a daughter or anything. But my lovely wife brings me some coffee. A macchiato, just like Italian Spider-Man. An iced macchiato. Yeah, shut your mouth, pussycat. Farming macchiato, pronto. Yes, I've modeled my whole life on Italian Spider-Man. Yes, I too respect la donna, except when she needs to be hit a bit. That is some good coffee. All right, we're getting a decent turnout now. I was a little worried when, for the first 5 minutes of the stream, I had one person, but now there's 10. Good stuff. But yeah, like, if people are so refusing to join the military, maybe you need to ask why. Maybe you need to ask why the people are so unpatriotic. Could it be that the country sucks? Could it be people feel little loyalty to the government and they don't want to fight for it? Yeah, I know that John Bolton and pals are like foaming at the mouth, like, "Oh no, we don't have military recruits. How will we spread pointless entropy and death and decay throughout the world?" I would like to point out that according to Julian Assange, we literally don't fight wars to win them. We fight wars for the sake of fighting them. We fight wars to keep them kind of like in a low, slow burn for all eternity because the defense contractors make more money that way. I mean, I'm very much anti-imperialist, and I would prefer if we weren't doing it at all. But we genuinely would kill less people and cause less destruction in the long run if we just went in, stomped the shit out of countries, and declared, this is the American empire now, and we're putting our flag here, deal with it. I mean, we're so schizophrenic about not being imperialist, even when we are being imperialist. It inadvertently makes things worse to have these, like, peat fire wars. If we just went in... Sorry, I'm just enjoying my coffee. If we just went in, we were like, whatever happens, we've got the Maxim gun and they have not. We just went in and just stomped the shit out of people and declared, formal imperialism and annexation. I honestly think it would be better in the long run than what we do now. I would prefer if we didn't do anything at all, but apparently that's not an option. Like, defense contractors, you can make the weapons and then sell them to other countries. You'll still make a lot of money. Works for Belgium and Italy. But oh no, like, we'll make slightly more money if we, send Cletus and Buford over to, some shithole to have them kill people for no reason. Okay. Fran LBK says, serving in the military can be a feminist dream. You have to yell at men and order them around. I mean, yeah, in theory, but you also have to, like, carry heavy things and, sleep in the dirt, and that's very much not what they're about. Yeah, also, speaking of that, occasionally on Twitter, you'll see things go viral where, like, female drill sergeants, yell at their, male recruits, and honestly, the male recruits do not look very intimidated. And, you'll have some, like, boomer con be like, "Yeah, man, I was in the military. I'd be shitting my pants in fear at this, like, little 4'8", like, Central American peasant woman yelling in my face." And I'm not joking. Like, the one I saw, literally, this woman had to, like, get on a cooler to, like, yell at this guy, and she still wasn't eye level with him. It was pretty lame. I'm not the toughest guy in the world, but I can't say I would be intimidated by some garden gnome in a Smokey the Bear hat yelling at me. I've never served in the military at all, but from what I've been told, the little, like, goblina drill sergeants can be pretty intimidating in the sense that if you laugh in their face, they will get, they'll get some, like, 6'5", 260-pound redneck or 6'5", 260-pound, like, ghetto black dude who's the actual drill sergeant who will kick your ass if you, like, talk smack to her. So, intimidation by proxy. Ponythroat says, Confucius say, girl who go on fishing trip with 6 guys comes back with a red snapper. Yes, well said. Personally, I've always felt that Master Kong's wisest phrase was, "It is better to lose your lover than love a loser." Fair LPK says, "I gotta watch that video. It's definitely not the sergeant from Full Metal Jacket." Yeah, it's on. If you look around, you can find it pretty quick. But yes, like I say, the intimidation factor these little tiny female like Chihuahua drill sergeants have is basically the fact that they can invoke the wrath of the actual drill sergeant who will kick your ass up and down the base for disrespecting her. Alfred Newman says, "Hell hath no fury like a woman scorned, because we're not in Unga Bunga times where Grog will club you for insulting him." Yes, we all wish we could be living in the Unga Bunga times, but sadly we do not. Give me 1 second. I'm going to be right back. I hear something strange happening in my kitchen. I want to see what's going on. Okay, I am back. So yes, what's going on elsewhere in the world? Let's see. I mean, America's going down the shitter as always. Oh yeah, speaking of the government, let's leave the military for a second. Let's see what NASA's about. NASA is up to some shenanigans. Okay, NASA, more specifically at NASA Sun on Twitter, asks, "How do you draw a pride flag with science?" And again, it's the fuck spiral flag. It's the LGBT like chevron monstrosity, saying this flag is a composite of NASA imagery of phenomenon from Earth and far beyond. Details below. Okay, you got the cloud vortices off Heard Island, auroras over Bear Lake, extreme solar flares, the Jupiter red spot, the Intrepid crater on Mars, the dark spot on Neptune, etc. Remember when NASA was like doing space exploration and stuff? Yeah, I remember that too. We sacrificed the stars for this. I hate to say it, but like, I feel like NASA would get more done if they had Nazis running it like they used to. Obviously, I don't approve of that politically, but they got shit done. When Herr von Braun was running the show, and the rest of the NASA employees were a bunch of like stuffy white men with crew cuts and horn rimmed glasses and suit and like shirts and ties. They got shit done back then. I mean, like it's again, I have nothing against the LGBT community. I just don't know if this is like the best thing NASA should be doing with its time. I really don't. Okay, Fran LPK says, "Is it a burglar? I hear something strange in my kitchen. I want to hear what's going on." Larsen Halleck's last words. No, it was just the lady of the house turning on the range burners for some reason. Fran LPK says, remember when NASA was about going to the moon and shoving in the face of the Soviets? Yeah, I do. As a side note, like, for some reason, I get, like, weird communist accounts on my Twitter feed, and a substantial amount of them will deny that the moon landing happened, even though the Soviet Union literally acknowledged that it happened. And, Chinese and Indian moon, rovers also showed that it happened. I've said this before and I'll say it again. If you deny the moon landing, you are a spiritual homeless person. A spiritual peasant feels that the space race was not worth it and was a waste of money. A spiritual homeless person feels that it did not happen at all. Alpha Marigi says, Hoteps will get offended if you say that black people are the trans people of ethnic groups. I don't know if I'll go that far. But the progs put their colors right next to each other. Well, the thing is that fractal fuck spiral flag is supposed to be like people of color, not just black people specifically. Yeah, that's every variation of that flag is the worst flag I've ever seen. You've got that weird chevron flag. Then you have the one with the big red umbrella corporation in the middle of it. The red umbrella is supposed to represent sex workers, apparently. Ponythroat says, you could say that about anything these days. I presume he's referring to the idea of me saying NASA was run better when the Nazis were running it. Yes, don't cut yourself on that edge, sir. Penelope K says, I don't think the Nazis would approve of that gay flag stuff. No, I don't think Mr. Von Braun would. Robert Diaz says, NASA gave us cordless tools, MREs, and Tang. Yes. Also GPS and memory foam mattresses. I'm a big fan of the space. But no, the most important thing in science is outreach to the gay community. There's been plenty of very good scientists who are gay. Alan Turing, hello. If they're interested in science, they will come. You really don't. There's not much you can do to encourage a love of science in those who are naturally inclined to it. There's a lot you can do to turn them off. But if a young lad is interested in science, they will come. Not to be outdone by NASA, the American public school system is going down the shitter as well, because of course it is. In Chicago, public school spending has gone up 97% since 2012. The grades have gone down by 60 to 80%. Yeah, it's a mystery. I wonder why. You know why the funding keeps going up, but the grades keep going down? Because none of that money goes to teachers. None of that money actually goes directly to student outcomes. It goes to administrative staff, which has absolutely skyrocketed in those 10 years. Not just in Chicago, but everywhere. We're not increasing teachers. We're not increasing, materials for the students. It's hiring administrators and HR broads and diversity agents and all this stupid crap that doesn't actually help anything with education. But the shitlibs will insist. I mean, yeah, we're spending we're spending 50,000 per student, but if we spend 100,000, that's when shit's going to go up. It's not the teacher's fault, okay? Most teachers I've known are pretty good. I mean, obviously there's some bad teachers, but most teachers are, interested in their field and they're passionate about it and they want to convey it to the students. But nobody wants to say the children are the problem. Well, they're half the problem. The administrators are the other half of the problem. I've said this many times. I'm going to say it again. You must de-brap the schools. You got to kick the brappies out of schools. And you got to kick the little weenie administrators out of schools. Then we can start unfucking the schools. some kids want to learn. Like, some kids just want to, brap and make noises and just waste everybody's time. It drags down everybody's education, the teachers and the students, and nothing gets done. Not allowed to discipline the precious brappies, so the school goes to shit. You gotta do restorative justice. Because, you don't want to perpetuate that school to prison pipeline, even though that only exists because the children make it into a prison. But no, nobody wants to say that. Nobody wants to say the children suck and they're the problem. Fuck your children. Fuck the administrators. Like, you're the problem here. Yeah, just keep lowering the standards for tests. Maybe that'll just work itself out. Hey man, we tried everything. We're all out of ideas. It just keeps happening. And of course, people blame the teachers for it. Say, oh, the teachers, they demand pay raises, but, the kids, they don't improve the kids. The teachers can only do so much, slapdick. The shitty children are why, they don't learn. The shitty children who, they can't possibly live without just random barking and random noise. Oh, they're the ones who drag it down. But you can't blame the kids. No, you just gotta blame everybody else. Okay. Ponythroat says, referring to the LGBT fuck spiral, they chose the Umbrella Corporation because they're both the origin of diseases. Yes. Yeah, if only sexually transmitted diseases turn you into like a tyrant or the nemesis. You just get AIDS and die. Okay. Robert Diaz says NASA accidentally paid for its existence. Why did they mess up NASA? LOL. Yeah, I don't know. Because sometime in the mid-2000s, we decided that outreach to minorities and the gay community was more important than actually doing science. FanLPK says, I hate space. It's too big and too scary. Yes, thank you, Anakin Skywalker. Ponythroat says, we all know why the Chicago test scores are low. Ain't no amount of money gonna help. I mean, I would argue that, it's more of just a shitty culture thing than a, demographic thing per se. Some of these kids, they do want to learn, and it sucks because, the brappies drag them down. Fran LPK agrees. It's the parents more than the children. Yes, parents will, a good parent will force their kid to study and learn. Hey, Robert Diaz says the parents of Chicago tend to not care. This is why school choice should be a thing. It will force competition and make schools be good. Charter schools do better for less. I mean, I used to work for a charter school, which ended up being a total scam. I'm still owed about $10,000 in back pay, but that's a whole different issue. Hey. You okay? Ponyfoot says, this isn't much to do with anything. I found my Xbox 360 controller for emulation. Hard to believe the 360 is almost 20 years old at this point. Makes me feel like crumbling into dust and blowing away. Yes, and the retro gaming market is an absolutely ridiculous bubble. Yeah, I'm going to segue a bit from the schools, but I went to my parents' house the other day, and I was going through some old crap, and I found my old Wii and GameCube games. So I brought it back to my place, and I was thinking, I'm an adult now. You know what game I should finally get a hold of Eternal Darkness, Sanity's Requiem for the GameCube. It's a game I've been looking for years. Just I could never find a copy of it when I was a kid. And I'm thinking, oh boy, I can finally get it now. I might be able to get it for cheap. I look on the internet, and that game is selling for $136. A 20-year-old GameCube game is selling for double the amount that it would have sold at retail when it first came out. Why is this happening? Why are retro games such a ridiculous bubble? Like, I used to go to Funko Land, and they used to have like the old, NES and like Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis cartridges in like a big tub in the middle of the store. You could literally get like a game for a quarter. I would fill up a box for like $10. That's how I got into retro gaming. Now it's like I blink and it's like ridiculously expensive. Ponythroat says, I think Eternal Darkness is a bit of an outlier as it, it was well reviewed. But, it didn't sell well, but it was very well reviewed at the time, I remember. It was only on the GameCube, so it's kind of rare. Yeah, it's also has the somewhat dubious honor of being the first M-rated game that Nintendo ever made or published. I know it was Silicon Knights was the main developer. But yeah, like, come on, it should not be that expensive. A piece of electronic equipment should not be that expensive. I remember I talked about this a while back. Crusader of Senti on the Sega Genesis, which is Sega's Legend of Zelda ripoff. That's like $1,000 for a mint condition copy. A mint condition copy of Super Mario 64 sold for $1.5 million in 2021. That's a bit crazy. I mean, I have a copy of Super Mario 64. It's not in a box, but it's in like, excellent condition. I mean, can I sell that for a few $100,000? Robert Diaz says, I should buy Eternal Darkness disc only. May save you a lot of money. I mean, the cheapest copy I could find was a used copy for $40, but, I have no idea what the quality is going to be like. It might be scratched to shit. Yeah, we'll get back to video games near the end of the stream. But, yeah, speaking of the schools, Alpha Marigi says, Kelly Bundy has been in high school for years, so the test score should have gone up. Well, Kelly Bundy and all her friends were sleeping with their teachers. That's how they got through school. But yes, speaking of the Brappies, The Atlantic reposted a article I remember reading about a year ago asking, why do rich people love quiet? If gentrification has a sound, it is silence. Zolsha Gonzalez, Xochitl, on why the rich love quiet so much, what it means for everybody else. Oh my God, no, there's just silence. I'm losing my mind. When I describe Brappies, it's not a racial thing, it's not an ethnic thing. It's a worthless shit-ass thing, okay? Shitty people just need random noise at all times. Like, you could be, there's white Brappies, there's black Brappies, Hispanic Brappies, there's all kind of Brappies. And the fastest way to identify a Brappy is the fact that they just need noise at all times. Like, at best, they are like, looking up TikToks, listening to shitty mumble rap. At worst, they're just making like random mouth noises at, any goddamn time, any hours of the day. Yes. And of course, the image of the article is, the wholesome, Chungus minorities gathering organically. And, the evil bourgeois white people are, like, dull and gray, and, because they like quiet. By the way, Zolsha Gonzalez is literally a brown-haired, green-eyed white woman who, I mean, looks like, you know, I mean, I would say, like, she looks like she got off the boat with Cortez, but I don't think there were women involved in that. But I don't know. I don't know. I just find it a bit silly that this very obviously white woman has this ridiculous Aztec name, just trying to LARP as some kind of, like, you know, indigenous person, and she's quite clearly not. Yeah, there's quite a bit of that. But yes, I'm not rich, but I like quiet very much. I mean, maybe I'm rich in spirit. I don't. I don't know. I don't know. I've never felt the need to just have random noise going on at all times. Hey man, it's more authentic. Look at this vibrant culture. I feel like the people who say stupid crap like that, they live in like these, super rich, almost entirely white enclaves, and they don't know what, like, the urban youth's, like, vibrancy is like. I feel like they imagine that, the vibrant streets are like some kind of medieval bazaar where there's like fiddlers and jugglers and, like, revelry going on. When in actuality, it's just random screaming, dogs barking, and gunshots at 2 in the morning. One second. Hey, sorry, I had a bit of a segue, but hey, I'm back. Okay, let's see. Robert Diaz says I sold Xenosaga 1 to 3 for $450. I mean, I should probably sell like some of my old games. I mean, some of them are hot garbage. But I could probably make a decent amount of money for them. Yeah, I actually did sell like old games, I guess before this ridiculous bubble came in with retro gaming. And to think I sold my copy of like Star Fox Adventures for $20, I could have gotten like 200 from it. Ponythroat says, I used to own a copy of the Great Gianna Sisters for the Amstrad CPC. I should have kept it because some versions of the game are now worth over $1,000. Ah, jeez, trying to think of like. Yeah, I mean, I have some old Sega Genesis games. Like I have Golden Axe, Gunstar Heroes. I could probably make some money off those. I mean, Robert Diaz says, "Quiet lets you think. Quiet uh, lets you sort through the mess and solve the issues of the day." Fan LPK says journalism went from Vietnam reporters and Watergate to that Atlantic shit. The Guardian had an article about how working out makes you right wing. Yes, I've read that one. Fran LPK says, in my country, we call people like this Gonzalez woman chetos con culpa. People with money who feel guilty for having money. Yeah, we certainly have a lot of that in this country. In a lot of Western countries, actually. Uh, you know, people call them various names. There's like the caviar left wing, champagne socialists, limousine liberals. I prefer the term champagne socialist because I know the difference between a liberal and a socialist, unlike many of my countrymen. But yeah, these people who like feel guilty about money, so they kind of really go hard into these like left wing causes. So yeah, we are certainly no strangers to that, sir. Ponythroat says Larsen played Star Fox Adventures and didn't turn into a furry. Yeah, it's amazing how that happened. Crystal ruined a generation of gamers. Yes, she sure did. I mean, video games did mess me up sexually for years, mainly in the fact that I thought that I couldn't talk to a woman unless I fought off like a group of armed bandits or muggers to save her. But that's a whole different issue. But yeah, silence is good. A civilized person does not, make random noise. Shit asses do. And speaking of shitty people, in Albany, there was a government-funded grocery store in a food desert area. It lasted about 2 years before it collapsed into debt and corruption and then closed down. Chicago, speaking of Chicago again, also has this proposal for municipal grocery stores. Yes, but the food deserts just arise for no reason. The grocery store owners just hate black people so much. They just don't open up grocery stores and sell healthy food in those areas. In actuality, the community, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, does not actually care about fresh produce and food available locally. They want the junk food. And they shoplifted. And the store closed down. Why are there food deserts? I mean, we stole all the food without paying for it, and they operate at a loss. It's a mystery. Also, people in the Twitter thread are also pointing out how in those same areas where there were food deserts, there were usually ethnic markets, Hispanic or Asian, which somehow, by some strange coincidence, they managed to sell fresh produce and fruits and vegetables. And that just defies explanation. Once again, your children suck. Ponythroat says, food deserts are food deserts for a reason. Bish Lankovich says, some children live in chaos. I mean, in some cases, some children cause chaos. We had 30 kids show up in my library for bombing for ramen. This is after-school activity. Not sure what kind of ramen involving shenanigans you're getting involved in, sir, but it sounds fun. Alpha Mariga says, liberals don't exist anymore. Well, yeah, you're right. I mean, they're all just gay race communists nowadays. Why are there food deserts? Okay, moving on from that. Kind of related, actually. See if I can open this up. Scientific American also says that fighting obesity is racist. Prescribing weight loss to black women ignores barriers to their health. Well, I think that's pretty racist personally. You're just assuming they're fat. The food deserts, it all just comes together. Oh, apparently this was a hoax, which a lot of people fell for. It just kind of came up on the Twitters. But, would you really be surprised if that was, in fact, a legitimate article? I would not. So, once again, Larsen just read the byline and was taken in by a hoax. This is probably the third time this has happened, and I apologize. Let's see. I think we're kind of coming towards the silly side of things. Just, wait, no. Got one more thing to talk about. Kind of archaeology-related news. Anthropology-related news. June 8th, 2024. Study confirms that the palace of King Gezo in Dahomey was a site of voodoo blood rituals. Proteomics confirms the quote-unquote colonialist myth that the palace walls of Dahomey were bound with human blood and flesh. Yeah, so once again, the pulp fiction novelists are vindicated. H. Rider Haggard and George MacDonald Fraser high-fiving in the afterlife. The pulp fiction writers were right, and the bug anthropologists were wrong. The Palace of Death was real, just like Flashman said. Yeah, somebody says everybody wants skulls for the Skull Throne until you have to get those skulls for the Skull Throne. Yeah. I know, I find it very amusing that, like, the old, Penny Dreadful, colonizer novels are more historically accurate than the Bugmen. But, that's just me. See what else we got here. I think now we can get to the silly side of things, such as we are. I guess we're going to bridge the gap between the news and the silly side of things. See what we got here. We're talking about an academic named Judith Butler. She's a feminist academic. When asked her opinion about housing males in women's prison, she says guards rape women. Women rape women. Males are raped in men's prison. Therefore, we should house males in women's prison. In public, Judith Butler goes on record saying, like, trans women are women. But when she's procuring graduate students to sleep with her, lesbian graduate students, which she is notorious for doing, she goes out of her way to get biological women. So she's a trans ally in the streets and a TERF in the sheets, which is pretty common. People talk a lot of stuff about what they, ideally should do, but then their sexual preferences kind of reveal otherwise. The whole myth about radical in the streets and colonized in the sheets, in which, angry brown women seem to exclusively date white men. That's a meme for a reason. I didn't even know who this person was because, obviously I don't pay attention to lesbian academics. Because, I'm sure you guys do. Looking at the comments here, Ponythroat says, the homies peeling each other and then using each other as foundations. Yes. Flashman described it very well in the third Flashman book, Flash for Freedom. Okay, now we can get to the Twitter silliness and general insanity of the world that we can point and laugh at. We laugh because we don't cry. Fan LPK says saying feminist academic is like saying commie Nazi. Well, I mean, the commie Nazis are serious. They stopped McBain from delivering the UNICEF pennies. Anyway, something went a bit viral on TikTok and also Twitter. A German woman came to America and she was talking about things she liked about America. Things I prefer in the US as a German. She says, I like the bagels. I don't know why we don't have bagels in Germany. Yeah, I don't know why you don't have bagels in Germany. It's a mystery. I would be furiously pulling at my shirt collar if I were wearing a shirt. I'm not because it's really goddamn hot. Okay, moving on from that unpleasantness. Sorry. We have to deal with some other unpleasantness. but funny unpleasantness. And now we finally come to the title story. Oh, the Hugh Manatee. Okay. Pony Throat takes the very dark joke I made and takes it just one step further. The bagels in Germany are overcooked and they smell like almonds for some reason. Yes, they do. Alpha Marigi says the early birds got all the bagels. Germans need to wake up earlier. Well, that's one way to describe it. Okay, but yes, anyway, the title story. Oh, the Hugh Manatee. Hugh the Manatee. Okay, this is from HuffPost Queer Voices, by the way. Yeah, Hugh died from a 14.5 centimeter rip in his anus. Jeez, that's like almost 7 inches. Caused by a sexual encounter with another male manatee, Buffet, who is also his brother. Jesus Christ, I don't know what the hell's going on here. Florida always impressing me with its standards of behavior. Florida man wasn't bad enough. Now we have Florida manatee. Florida aquarium blames manatee death on high-intensity sex with another male manatee. And it happened during Pride Month. So yes, oh, the humanity. What else can I say, really? I shouldn't be laughing at an animal being rump wrangled to death. But I'm sorry, I had to. I'm sorry. Okay. Ponythroat says, given the size of the rip, maybe they gave the wrong manatee the name Huge. Yes. That's what I call a sea cow, am I right? Robert Diaz says you got to protect Uranus. Yes, it's very important to protect it. Well, Hugh and Harambe are gonna be friends in heaven. Yay. All right, moving on from that. And now we can finally get back to the video games. So, I don't know if you heard, but they're making a new Perfect Dark game. Yay. And then they made Joanna Dark, this, giant, like, shovel chin, like, beast woman, because of course they did. Boo. I mean, if I recall correctly, her sexuality wasn't that big of a deal in the original game, but kind of went too far with this. She wasn't like overtly sexual in the original game. I only ever played the Nintendo 64 one. But like, yeah, she was like a competent spy woman who wore a cat suit and stuff, as they should. And yeah, she was a capable spy. She wasn't some like broad-shouldered, massive chin like snoo woman. And can't say I approve of this. Like, it's been about 21 years. You finally bring Perfect Dark back, and it's this crap right here. Yeah, like I'm looking at Jonah Dark right here. She's not like overtly sexual, but she doesn't have this giant man chin. Okay. Ponythroat says, this new Perfect Dark game, maybe it'll run at a decent frame rate. Well, the original ran at a decent frame rate if you got that expansion pack, and I did. The Nintendo 64 expansion pack basically was, you basically use it for 2 games. Zelda Majora's Mask, and Perfect Dark. Because you just had to give that little extra kick to the graphics. And yeah, those are both very good games. Pony Thought says Perfect Dark Zero sucked in general. Yeah, the Xbox 360 didn't have the greatest launch titles in the world, did it? I mean, people weren't lining up to play Cameo Elements of Power and Azuric and Perfect Dark Zero. This might be the first time in 25 years anybody's referenced any of those games. Robert Diaz says, all women must be ugly, flat-chested, and overweight, according to the modern game developers. Well, that's good. I mean, it's unrealistic to have beautiful women, even if you literally model the game characters on real women. Even if like the voice actors are literally more attractive than the characters in the game, like it's unrealistic to have women that look remotely good. Ponyfoot says Perfect Dark ran like shit even though it had the expansion pack. I know, I remember it running okay. Granted, it's been a very long time since I played Perfect Dark. But, maybe my opinion isn't good. Robert Diaz says Star Wars Rogue Squadron also used the expansion pack. Yeah, I don't remember that. I guess I never played Rogue Squadron. Yeah, I only own 2 games that use the expansion pack, and it was Majora's Mask and Perfect Dark. Alpha Marigi says, people will insist ugly video game women are super sexy, actually. Yes, they will. And speaking of Nintendo, so there's been some leaks with regards to Nintendo, going down the woke agenda. Okay, Nintendo of America is sponsoring the Seattle Pride Parade. That's not bad in and of itself. Yes, Nintendo of America is in Redmond, Washington, pretty close by. But yes, according to some leaks from Grums, Mark Kern, who was involved in World of Warcraft and Diablo 2, he says Nintendo funds and supports LGBTQ groups like Rainbow ERG, giving company time, resources, and funds to bring in guest speakers and spread propaganda. Internally, there were growing concerns that DEI is making working at Nintendo USA worse. Many are waiting for the other shoe to drop and waiting for Nintendo to make a big product mistake on the level of Bud Light and Dylan Mulvaney. Yes, the sound of millions of voices crying out, "Oh shit," at the thought of Link taking it up the ass. Yeah, I'm hearing it too. Somebody wants to do it. Hopefully Nintendo Japan can step in and tell them to stop, but it just might happen. Hopefully these are not real leaks. But it's a possibility. I mean, certainly there's enough people who want crap like that. And, why don't we make Birdo the star of the next Mario game? Because you got to get that transsexual representation. I mean, if you want to sponsor the Pride Parade, that's cool. But, understand that your fan base will not stand for this. I've alluded to this once or twice, but it genuinely does upset me. It really hurts me that it's gotten to the point where I'm genuinely ashamed to say the phrase "I am a Legend of Zelda fan" in public, because people who are not familiar with the games, they associate it with this weird emasculation, gay boy shit, and I'm sorry, it angers me. It's not cool. And if Nintendo leans into this, you're gonna destroy yourselves. And for what it's worth, Nintendo does kind of go after people who make that gay boy porn with cease and desist letters. So hopefully we'll cut that out. And I hate to talk about this again. I go on about this like every month or so. But yeah, it annoys me. Ponythroat says, a lot of Nintendo 64 used the expansion pack, only 3 needed it. Majora's Mask, Perfect Dark, Donkey Kong 64. Well, Donkey Kong 64 had no style and it had no grace, but the Kongs had funny faces. Alpha Marigi says, gamer boycotts don't work. I don't know, I feel like they might work. Alpha Marigi says, every corporation serves the woke agenda. BlackRock makes them. Yeah, sadly. Shinseki Evans says, living in the Pacific Northwest, I assure you it's real. It's impossible to find a job here without a DEI department. I mean, if Nintendo's smart, they will, they will basically just, they'll sponsor the Pride Parade, they'll pay lip service to it, and then they'll just keep doing this, the shit. But, the fact that they seem to go out of their way to make Link look like a little bitch, that's not a good sign. Incidentally, the other day I was looking at AI, mock-ups of what if they made like a Legend of Zelda movie in the 50s, and what if they made like a Studio Ghibli anime, and they both looked really good. Like, this should be the easiest thing in the world to make like a decent movie. I've heard no word about that movie project since it was announced. But yeah, I'm genuinely afraid that they're gonna I hate to use such a crude term, but they're gonna gay it up. Ponythroat says, the healing women in Zelda 2 prove Link is straight and he has no standards. Well, I'm sure with the old ladies, he just closes his eyes and they just kind of give him hand jobs. When I had some free time at work, I was thinking about this issue, and I was like, have I just been missing all the gay themes that are allegedly in the Zelda franchise? Have I just been missing that and ignoring it? So I went back and I looked at the old games. I'm like, no, they're not there. You people are wrong. I mean, I'll be honest, I haven't really played any new ones since Skyward Sword. So, obviously, a combination of adulthood and crippling poverty kept me away from the games for several years. Then I come back to it and I'm like, oh boy, I wonder what's new in the world of Hyrule. And it's just wall-to-wall sissy porn. I'm like, what the fuck did this happen? You just blinked and everything sucks. Fran LPK says, how do you do a Zelda movie when Link doesn't talk? Very carefully. I mean, in all seriousness, in the mangas and such, he does talk. So, you could just kind of base on the mangas. I would also argue that the mangas do, much more interesting things with the storyline than most of the games do. So I would really go hard on the mangas. The mangas also make it explicitly clear that Link likes dicking down ladies. But that's, again, just a little tidbit that I like. Ponythroat says, I'm sorry, Alpha Marigi says, surprisingly not Ponythroat, it's like a massage parlor. Yeah. Ponythroat says, one lady restores health, one restores your magic power. It proves that Link is using different holes. Yeah, yes. Alpha Marigi says Link Between Worlds was good. I've heard good things, but I haven't gotten around to it. Yeah, fun fact, when I was doing laundry delivery, I went to a guy's apartment once, and he was playing the Switch remake of Link's Awakening. I was going to jump in and kind of help him out, because I've played the original game many times, but I decided against it. Robert Diaz says, the people looking for gay stuff in Zelda will find the gay stuff either way. It's a self-hypnosis thing and or self-fulfilling prophecy stuff. I mean, I did a whole video kind of addressing this issue, because I don't like repeating myself, but as far as I can tell, most of it seems to be based on Breath of the Wild. Like, there's that one level where you have to cross-dress. So it's either that or just, like, they don't know the difference between a tunic and a skirt, and it's literally just based on sheer ignorance. But yeah, not helping matters is the fact that Aonuma seems to go out of his way to make Link look gayer and gayer in each game. I've said this once and I'll say it again. Yeah, so he's always been a long-haired pretty boy, but, you know, in the old games and, you know, the supplementary material, you know, he was drawn in a way where, like, you know, he had muscles, he looked like, you know, he had broad shoulders, he looked like he could kick ass, and now it just looks like a bitch. Alpha Marigi says, game journalists are just malicious. Yes, they're also staggeringly incompetent. Taco Bela Lugosi says, Link loves giving the high, hard one to the ladies. Now, that could be the D or it could be an ass kicking, because it really depends on which ladies in particular. When I was making jokes about the Matanzas High School Switch beatdown, I said, I don't know what lessons you learned from playing the Switch. I imagine Breath of the Wild, Link doesn't just slap women around. Then I realized that he actually does fight women, as long as they're unattractive. He allows sexy women to get away unharmed. Yes, thank you, Taco Bela Lugosi, for $2 whole. Took way too long for Mark Wahlberg to pop up there. Yeah, there it is. And, you know, with regards to the gay thing, it's like, I would take it slightly more okay, I'll put it this way. There's two ways I could take this slightly more seriously. Like, if you portrayed Link as just, you know, a strong and capable hero as he is, who just happens to dick down men, like, I could almost accept that. I guess. But it's really the emasculation and, like, just him being a bottom. That is what kind of sets me off. And secondly, I take these claims a bit more seriously if they didn't also say it about Lord of the Rings and superheroes and Star Trek and every other thing. The greatest virtue to these people is plowing rumps. Anyway, that does it for my prepared remarks. If you've got to say your last pieces, you can do so now. Okay, doesn't seem like anybody has anything else to say. So for Larsen Halleck, this has been Larsen Halleck. All of you have a good day.